What up, guys? Anti-tier guild forever. Gonna give a well, actually, I guess you could say it's a complete series review for Sorry, give me 1 second. For Kamen Rider Geats. So most people already got my thoughts regarding the series, the final episode. I thought the final episode was very momentous. Everything just culminated and just pretty much wrapped itself up in a nice pretty bow toward the end of the last episode of Kamen Rider Geats. It was sad to see Geats go, but at least he was able to be, essentially he did die in the end. Geats really did die when Sumuri shot him in the head. Yeah, he actually did die, but he already knew that ahead of time. Essentially, by dying, he embraced his role into godhood. Essentially, he became a god, like legitimately. Once he died, he abandoned his mortal body and accepted himself in a more godlike, position. And well, that's it. Ace, Kamen Rider Geats, he was gone. Well, that's not actually correct. His body has left the earth, but he remains as, I guess you could say, God himself. He's taken up the role of God and watches over people, granting them their wishes. And essentially, if you wish for something hard enough, I mean, if you want it enough, it'll eventually come true. I feel like that was the message that was meant to be conveyed toward the end of Kamen Rider Geats episode 49. It was 49, correct? You'll see when this is posted up on the main channel. Speaking of which, I know it's been a bit. We gotta get back on track regarding that too, because I have a lot of things I want to upload to the channel. But for now, Geats. Hopefully, if I have time after this, I can upload Gachard. Or at least the following day I can upload Gachard, but we'll see. However, though, if not tonight, if Gachard doesn't get uploaded tonight, then it's definitely going to be tomorrow. So the main thing that I want to get off my chest now from this point moving forward is my overall opinion of the series Kamen Rider Geats. I'll be honest with you guys, Kamen Rider Geats, I wouldn't say is my #1 favorite series. I would, like, in regarding Kamen Rider, I wouldn't say it's my #1 favorite, but it was a good series as a whole. As a whole, I personally think the series was good, but I don't think it was the best one I've seen from my knowledge. Because for those that aren't aware, I've seen like a decent amount of Kamen Rider series from this point. From 01, Revice, Den O. I don't think I finished Den O. I need to go back to that. Black Sun, even though it was kind of a short series, but still really, really good. X-Aid, but I'm still fairly new to that series. What's the word I'm trying to... what's the word I'm trying to use? It's like, it wasn't... Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even, like... If I were to say my top 3 favorite Kamen Rider series, I'd still say #1 is Revice. Revice is currently my #1 favorite Kamen Rider series, and yeah, still is. Second favorite is Kamen Rider 01. I love Aruto as a character. I personally think he's a better character than Geats, as well as Ikki from Revice. And then finally, I would say my third favorite series would have to be Den O. Actually thinking about it more, I think I would do it like this: Revise, Den O, 01, and then Geats. That's how I would rate it. That's how I would rate it in terms of like ongoing series. So yeah, but regardless of the rating regarding Geats, it's still as a whole like a good series. It's still good. It's just compared to the other series I've seen, it's not the craziest one. But I don't know. You guys let me know. out of actually, you guys probably have seen more Kamen Rider series than I have, so I guess a better question would be, would you place Geats anywhere in your top 3, maybe top 5? I'll have to say this, I don't think Geats is top 3 worthy, but I would say it could be top 5, because regardless of how I feel about the series, it was still very watchable. It was worth watching, and it was interesting. I enjoyed it throughout majority of the series. There were a few characters that I wasn't crazy about, kind of a letdown, and overall just like disappointing. But regardless of that, there were characters that I do like toward the end, surprisingly enough, considering how I started this series. I never would have suspected these characters would end up in my favorite list. If I were to say the #1 worst character in the series, I personally think is Keiwa. I know this is gonna come off as shocking, considering I used to hype up Keiwa so much early on in Geats, and now for him to be one of my least favorite characters of the series, it's just that there's just so much other better characters. I mean, one could argue for argument's sake that Daichi is like the worst, which could be, honestly. That's a fair assessment too. But it's just, for me, Keiwa just felt like a massive disappointment. For someone that tried and strive to do everything he can for the best of the world, he became a massive hypocrite toward the end. And listen, I get it. He found out how he lost his parents, which that, in my opinion, once he found out how he lost his parents, that's where his descent to madness took place. He lost his sister. So many people died in the series that ultimately affected him mentally, and that, in my opinion, was those were probably one of the biggest triggers that led Keiwa into like his spiral descent to madness. Even like, yes, in like the Kamen Rider Revise and Geats like Battle Royale, we got a sneak peek into Keiwa's dark nature. And honestly, Keiwa, he didn't really felt like someone that was... His dark personality wasn't necessarily evil. It was just someone bitter, someone that's truly fallen into a spiraling breakdown after losing one person after another, finding out the truth, and then being the only one left in his family. I get it. That can push you to madness. I can see that. But here's the thing. His quote-unquote evil side really didn't came off as evil. It came off more as someone desperate. If anything, that's how I took it. Now, you guys can agree with me, or you guys can choose to disagree with me. It is completely up to you how you want to interpret it. But in my personal opinion, I was just honestly completely disappointed with what I saw in this character. He could have been so much better. I'm just saying, he could have been so much better as a character. But it is what it is. I will say though, Bujin's sword, his henshin, that was probably my most favorite thing I've ever saw in Keiwa. His final henshin form, that was probably my favorite thing. And once again, we still getting capes, guys. We still getting capes. I'm just saying. But other than that, I honestly think Keiwa's character was probably one of the weakest among the characters in the series. Okay, I guess since I started with Keiwa, I can go up the list of my overall characters that I paid the most attention to. My third favorite character, well, I guess in least, but I would say I liked her character quite a bit in the series. Neon. Neon, honestly, I would have to say this. Now, Keiwa had a tragic backstory. Geats had a tragic backstory. Buffa had a tragic backstory. But Neon, I just have to say this. Neon's backstory was probably one of the most saddest backstories I have ever seen in the series itself. Now, is it the saddest backstory I've seen in Kamen Rider? Not necessarily, but it is one of like the big ones. I'll be honest, like her backstory honestly was really truly sad. From her family realizing that she isn't in fact their biological daughter, or the daughter that they thought they knew she would be throughout all those years. But in fact, something I honestly consider Neon a blessing that was given to them. Granted, it's something the father chose to do in order to feel like they have a family again. Because again, I get it. The father lost his daughter over that one ransom situation. He can't let it go. He lost, which again, who can blame him? He literally lost his daughter at a very young age, and she's gone. He can never get her back. So I understand him feeling hurt, lost, bitter, suffering. I get it. You lost your kid. No one would ever blame the father of the Kurama family for feeling the way he did or doing what he did, because despite the circumstances and despite getting the DGP involved as a second chance of having a child, I honestly think that it wasn't necessarily all bad. They were able to have Neon as a daughter, and despite the circumstances, again, as I said, she's a blessing. Not something to feel sad or reminded of the tragic backstory that happened to them. And despite the the bitterness toward how Neon felt toward her father, her mother, not getting the genuine love she so desperately desired, her father keeping her at arm's length, her mother even less so, because despite everything that happened, they just don't want to lose a daughter again. It honestly explains a lot why they acted the way they did early on in the series. Bro, I'm just saying, like, you can say whatever you want about Neon's parents, but bro, I just have to say this. If anyone lost a daughter, especially at a very young age, you would be paranoid too every single day of your life, worrying whether she's going to be alive as well, because of what happened with that whole ransom situation. Anyone would feel a certain kind of way with it, where she goes, who she's with, what she's doing in the day. Like, anyone would honestly be freaking out because of their past experience. So I don't necessarily blame the parents for acting or feeling a certain type of way about it. Sure, they could have handled it a bit better, but hey, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, they were able to reconcile and accept one another. Neon was finally able to find that genuine love that she had, that she was trying to get from her mother and from her father, and all the best wishes for her. I honestly think that was probably one of the most saddest, most fulfilling backstories that made a full circle toward the end of the series. Honestly, I wish I can push Neon a bit higher on the list, but it's just really hard considering the characters that are above her. But even then, despite her not being in second or first, I still think she is probably one of the best characters in the series. Easily, hands down, beating out most other characters. Easily beating Keiwa, without any debate. I guess we can move on from here, but yeah, overall, Neon, fantastic character. Now, my second favorite character, even though this character can honestly be the best one in the whole series objectively, and I think most people think the same, but hey, I wanted to give like an overall, like, again, this is my favorite list anyway. Yours could be different. I would say Buffa. Again, Buffa could easily be the best character in the whole series, And if you have him as your number one favorite, I'm not even gonna object to that. But I just feel the character that comes in first place, especially considering my circumstances, holds a bit more weight because of how I viewed this character. Anyway, talking about Buffa. What makes Buffa the second best character in the series? He was consistent all the way through, from beginning to end. Buffa's character was dedicated to his role. Despite the hardships, despite the suffering, despite what he did, especially to Keiwa's sister, and despite everything from switching sides to his rivalry with Geats, everything that occurred for him, he never once abandoned himself. He's never forsaken himself. He was always true to himself from beginning to end. And I'll be honest, man, that is insane. Like, every other character in Geats pretty much changed. While even though he went through many scenarios and circumstances, his character was loyal to himself to the very end. And you can't help but like admire that. Despite all those horrible things, especially like feeling guilt, feeling anger and resentful toward Geats, toward the DGP, and now even going so far as to working with the Yamatos, working back with the DGP, working with Geats. He swallowed his pride and decided to work with Geats for the sake of a better future, or for, I guess you could say, a better reality, a better world for everyone. He was able to finally, I guess you can say he did kind of change, but because instead of focusing on, you know, getting rid of all Kamen Riders, he ended up instead deciding to doing what needed to be done. I mean he still ended up getting rid of Kamen Riders, but only for their own sake. He, at the end of the day, just wanted to create, or I guess you could say, live in a world for not just himself, but for others, where not just he, but everyone around him could be happy. So no one else had to suffer what he went through. And even though he probably suffered one of the most, I'm not sure. Would you say Geats or Buffa suffered the most? It's hard to tell. But he still burdened himself with heavy responsibility, battle after battle, casualty after casualty, loss after loss. For him, it was easy to just allow himself to be the victim in all of his antics, in all of his like battles. If he was the only one that suffered, he could just keep going without any regret or any worries. But the moment it involved other people, especially ones that he knew and understood what they went through, he began to realize that even though he's still going to be who he truly still sets to be, like, you know, doing what he do, the end goal of making a better world for everyone by ridding the world of several things like the DGP, the game masters, Yamatos, Kamen Riders. He's just trying to do what's best for humanity. And despite being the only one truly suffering, well, not really the only one, but one of the main ones suffering, he still pedaled through. He powered through all that, not allowing his own weakness to overtake him. And I have to say, that's probably an admirable trait that, once again, I do not blame if people made this character number one. I really would not hold that against anyone. If you put Buffa as your number one favorite character, I'm not gonna lie to you, that's respectable. That is honestly respectable. But despite that, I would have to say my number one favorite character in all of Kamen Rider Geats is the man himself. What was his first name? Anyway, Ace, Kamen Rider Geats, Kitsune, whatever you want to call him. God, God or whatever. Even though I'm not gonna lie to you, some people may look this as like hypocritical or may feel a certain type of way about it. I know Coming from the guy that literally did not like Geats whatsoever and was hyping up Kawa majority of the first half of the series. Remember what I said when I first started reacting to Geats, guys. I said, and I quote, "Look, I may not like Geats right now, but could it change later?" Yeah, it could change. And if I do end up liking Geats later, I said I would eat my own words. And to this day, I will still not take that back. I like Geats now, and I would consider him my favorite character in the series. And I don't mind taking back the words I said before. Again, I'm not prideful. I'm not like that egotistical that I can't be a man about it and accept the fact that, hey, I can take accountability. I can accept that I was wrong about Geats, and I'm glad that he was a character that I can truly like. Again, I would never say Geats is my #1 favorite character in all Kamen Riders. I can never say he's my #1 favorite Kamen Rider, but I can say he's my #1 favorite Kamen Rider in Geats. And honestly, that's the most important thing. As long as the main character in a series is the most liked, or at least one of the most liked characters, then that's all that matters. I'm glad I ended up liking Geats. I can't say I was always his fan, but I'm glad toward the end I was one of his biggest fans. Well, at least according to me. And again, even though I still say Neon's backstory was probably the most tragic and the most saddest backstory, Geats honestly had a very compelling and very complicated backstory that ultimately led him down the road of godhood. He became a Kamen Rider that focused less on, what's the word I'm looking for? Focusing less on his own selfish wants and focus more in what's best for the world and creating a world that could make everyone happy. If that ain't a godlike entity, or if that's not a being of divinity, I don't know what is. He seamlessly fit in his role to godhood. Seamlessly. And that's what I did like. I enjoyed the transition when he became nothing more than like a simple player in a contest, trying to pretty much one-up everyone, being like that one guy that never loses, to someone that became more selfless and became less selfish for the sake of everyone. All the Kamen Rider contestants that participated, and everyone in the world. And again, I don't think I could ask for a better MC for this series. Considering, again, I'm pretty sure everyone can come to a unanimous decision and agree that Geats wasn't necessarily a perfect series, but it definitely ended off on a pretty high note. And I'm actually very happy for that. I'm happy that it ended off in a way to where it's satisfying. It did what it needed to do. It was able to be entertaining despite its flaws, despite certain things that occurred. So I can honestly say that Kamen Rider Geats is a series that I 100% enjoyed. And again, for those of you that I know we had our issues with Geats in terms of story, in terms of reactions, and I'm talking about the technical issues of it. I know we had our issues with that, but I just want to let you know, entering Gotchard, those issues will no longer be prevalent. They will no longer be prominent. I think that's the word I was trying to look for. Technical issues are finally sorted out. Check out Gotchard and you'll see for yourself. But other than that, I think I'm gonna call it here. Kamen Rider Geats, fantastic series, great henshins, great action scenes, great like overall plot twist points and everything like that. Not my favorite, but definitely a memorable character. That's it for me, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and don't forget to leave a hashtag. Let me know your thoughts. And what's the hashtag, you're probably wondering? Make sure in the comments section, I want you to hashtag Ace with us. That was the quote in the end of the episode, right? Ace with us. Anyway, that's it for this one though, guys. Make sure to leave your thoughts and comments and your own personal opinions regarding the series. Don't hold back. Tell me your honest thoughts. Just don't be a douchebag about it. That's all I ask. As long as you respect that, we're all good. Anyway, peace. I'm out. See you guys in Gotchard.